Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson from World Alternative Media here, and it's election night 2015 in Canada. So you know what that means, different puppet, same master. We're going to go up to people and ask them which puppet they voted for and why. We're going to hit up Shannon's pub, as you can see behind me right here, in downtown Winnipeg, across from the Winnipeg Convention Center, and then we're going to the Exchange District to find out which puppets people voted for at the King's Head pub. So let's check it out. All right, so Adam, what puppet did you vote for and why?
I voted NDP because, well, it's an ethical stance for me because I stood against C51. There's no way I could ever support the Liberals or the Conservatives. Amendments don't do fuck all. Like Robert Falcon, that's garbage about the amendments and jihadists and all that shit. That man is such a shill. He really is. He's a traitor, just like Trudeau. But when it comes down to it, I took an ethical stance against that bill, and I cannot support anyone who supports it, and I will support someone who repeals it. Plus, I don't mind a lot of the NDP's taxation in that, because as long as we're receiving the benefits from it, like you look at countries like Norway, Denmark with their taxation, if we get on a wagon like that, then it'd be good. But I think we would also have an easier time forcing the NDP's hands with protests and that than we would with the Conservatives or the Liberals. I think Justin is far too pompous.
So who did you vote for and why?
I voted NDP for a number of reasons. One being I don't agree with mandatory minimum sentencing. I don't think it's helpful in reduction of crime. I also am strongly opposed to C51. I don't agree with the way Muslims are treated by the Harper regime.
Okay, so John, which puppet, if any, did you vote for and why?
I did not vote today. I was actually considering voting. I wanted to vote for Randall Shank for Libertarian Party for Winnipeg Centre, but then when he dropped out of the race due to his family issues, I decided not to. Well, I didn't decide not to vote for him. I didn't have the option, but I decided not to vote generally because, I'm certainly no fan of Pat Martin. Can't stand the NDP generally and think Pat Martin is quite a jerk. While there were aspects of Falcon Ouellette that I liked, I just couldn't vote for the Liberal Party with C51 and just the general corporate fascist leanings of all three of the major parties mean that I would never really engage in strategic voting. I'm a voluntarist. I get excited when I see a party like the Libertarian Party that wants to talk about how international banks are kind of running this country and how our money's created from debts and how that whole system needs to be fundamentally changed for us to live in any kind of a just society or have any kind of a just economy. But the people that are running for the NDP, Liberals, Conservatives, Green Party, some of them are okay folks, but none of them are talking about those issues or the really deep fundamental issues that need to be changed. So there's just nobody that could get my vote.
All right, we're here with Zachary Linnick. So can you tell us a bit about which riding you're running in and which puppet did you vote for and why?
All right, I ran in the Churchill-Kiiwetinoong riding of Manitoba. It's the biggest physical riding in Canada. As it stands right now, I have 10 votes, which is way more votes than I expected to get, so I thank the 10 people that voted for me. In terms of my own voting preference, I live in the riding of St. James, Headingley, Charleswood, and I spoiled my ballot because all the candidates in my riding just wanted to spend my money in ways that I didn't want, so that's a moral to me. Like I want to do what I want to do with my money. So
yeah, and the lesser of the evils just doesn't work out quite well with you, right?
Yeah, it seems like a crazy notion to me to vote for someone that you don't really want just to get rid of someone you don't like.
So this has been quite the depressing election. Different puppets, same master. So I figured let's go in and have a drink and settle it that way.
I couldn't agree more.
Absolutely. Hey, so who did you vote for this election? I'm guessing it's probably Mulcair, and
Of course.
why?
Because he's my guy. He's my
Yeah.
party. That's
Yeah.
the obvious reasons.
Is that the only reason?
Yeah.
Only just because
he had a really good program for daycare, accessible daycare for the whole country,
Sure.
affordable, which we needed. Families need that. So, yeah, you did some filming.
Yeah. I'm
You guys
going
never
around
stop.
asking. Oh, I know. Well, thank you. I consider that a compliment. Cheers. Yeah, cheers. So, what puppet did you vote for this election, and why?
Well, first of all, I can't even vote in Canada. I'm a permanent resident, so
Yeah.
I chose not to vote just because of that. But I don't even vote in Norway, my home country, because our political system is completely flawed. We're just voting for a whole bunch of liars and that are full of money from corporate companies. So, like, there's no reason to vote for anybody. You have to start taking individual responsibility for your own country
Yeah.
by making your own actions and decisions to make it better in your way, and let others do it their way. We can't just give away, like, our responsibility to somebody else and you just sit there and it's like, well, he didn't do his job.
Yeah.
Well, you got to do your job. So that's why I'm not voting.
So, what puppet did you vote for, and why?
Well, I live in Winnipeg Center, and about 3 weeks ago I came across a severely disabled woman, and she also lived in Winnipeg Center, and she said that in last winter she was confined to her house, and that she went to Pat Martin, and Pat Martin was totally unresponsive. But she went to Robert Falcon Ouellette, who not only provided her with housing, but provided her live-in spouse with a wage for providing care for her, live-in care for her. And she said, this is the guy that's actually in the neighborhood. Apparently, Pat Martin makes his home somewhere in British Columbia, and then he works over in Ottawa, somehow manages to represent Winnipeg Center. That seems very unlikely to me. But Robert Falcon Ouellette is a member of the Canadian Armed Forces, a detachment that's based in Winnipeg, and he helped this woman out, so that swayed my vote over from the NDP into the Liberals.
Now, many will say that no matter who's elected, it won't change because there are other people at hand that control elected officials.
Yes.
Do you think things will really change, or do you think that's just a buzzword?
Now, I think change, much in the same way we saw in the American election in 2008 with Barack Obama, it becomes a big thing. People think a lot of things will change, but not many things will change because there's still a big opposition. There's a lot of opposition to every idea in a democracy, and that's really how it should be. Change really, legitimately should be slow and gradual because not everybody agrees with the same principles. But, I think this does say something about Canada is moving from the center right to the center left, and I think that that's at least a little bit, it matters a little bit.
All right, cheers. Okay, so you mentioned something about Tim Moen. So can you tell us your thoughts on the Libertarian Party?
Well, I was very impressed by the ideas that Tim Moen floated in his campaign leading up to the election. But I didn't see a Libertarian candidate on my ballot. So, I know that there's a party out there that calls themselves the Conservative Party, but I don't think they legitimately stand for conservative ideals, which are shrinking government to the smallest possible amount we can have of government. They're actually expanding the role of government far not only in as far as maximizing our debt. Every year, Stephen Harper has been Prime Minister. He's been expanding the debt. Also, he's been terrible on civil liberties, which is probably number one for me is civil liberties. C-51, the Conservatives and the Liberals are both terrible on civil liberties, and I would very much like to support Tim Moen, but I didn't see him on the ballot. And it's a very unusual position for a guy to have to support a guy that's left of center, and because he believes the guy that's right of center is going to make the government bigger and more oppressive.
I would agree with that. The Conservative Party of Canada, they're not conservatives, they're neocons. They're actually very expansionary, just in certain areas like building new private prisons and expanding overseas war and military spending. They just cut certain other things so people think they're conservative, and they have a sort of bullshit family values veneer over their public image, but at the root it's just corporate fascist cash and carry government.
Yeah.
It's nothing to do with individual freedom. C51, Eric here nailed it. That's a blatant grab of our liberties, nothing to do with classical old school conservatism at all.
Everybody, I found a libertarian in the crowd. I found a libertarian. Woo! All right, so Gary, what puppet did you vote for and why?
Today I voted Conservative. In my riding there was Liberal, NDP, Conservative, Independent, and Green. So I chose the Conservative. Best of the bad bunch. Sorry.
So we know that the Conservative Party in Canada isn't quite conservative. So why would you vote for the Conservative Party?
Well, as I said, the best of a bad bunch. I've always voted Conservative, and the reason I vote Conservative is this country was built on mostly rural folk, especially out west. And you'll notice mostly rural folk will vote Conservative. The reason they do that is because out in the rural areas, you have to depend upon yourself and very few others. Whereas in cities, you have to depend, well, you don't have to, but usually people will depend on others. So when you're out in the rural areas and, you know, it's a cold night, you're the one who's responsible for keeping yourself going.
Yeah.
So that's why I say the rural folk, they will tend to rely upon themselves. The city folk will tend to rely upon others.
So there you have it, Justin Trudeau, next Prime Minister, and of course a whole lot's not going to change, so we have to come together as individuals to fight for civil liberties in Canada, and we cannot give up until we have them. This is Josh Sigurdson, signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.